Got Korean Hornbeam. Whose is it? No one hasn't seen it. Is it your plate? Okay, Korean Hornbeam are a very, very beautiful deciduous species. Quite widely available. Many are actually produced in Korea and then shipped over. The tree, the species, will happily put on miles and miles and miles of thin branches without putting any real weight to any branches. And the direction of shoots is very important when we prune. You can see quite easily with this tree how easily the branches will come back into the crown of the tree. They don't want to grow outwards. It's not being helpful. The branches come back towards the crown of the tree. So we'll have to. You see here on this branch here, it's sort of maybe hooking round and coming back to itself. This is a natural feature of the tree, and one that we have to sort of fight against a little bit. But how to improve this time? Carpinus turczaninowii, Korean Hornbeam. Iwashi. There's a few dead branches that we can get rid of, that's no problem. The biggest issue is these crossing roots. There's probably some very, very, very good roots under here, around the back. So when we next repot, we need to think about taking off some of these big roots. And there will probably be a good root base under that. As we said with junipers, the most important thing is the deadwood. With deciduous trees, the most important thing with something like this is the nabari, the rise of the trunk. And we get that by good repotting. To put the tree in too deep a pot, as with this one here, too many roots are going to grow downwards, and it's not going to produce a good root base. We need the roots to grow that way. And to do that, we need to put it in a shallow pot. A very, very shallow pot. The shallowest we can possibly do. And this comes back to training of roots again. So we need the tree to be in something like that. So they have to grow outwards. And therefore, this base improves. So that's important for deciduous bonsai. What's also important is they're not put in a long pot. If the tree is in a pot like this, these roots here will grow. These won't. Okay? So in a long pot, that's not good. So we will end up with an uneven nabari. The way to develop the best nabari is small pot, but also air layering is one of the best ways. So if we did find that this tree didn't have very many roots, although I suspect it will have good roots, the roots are always characteristic of the branches. So we know that we've got branches coming out in all directions because we can see them. We know that there will be similar roots because this branch here, the one that's facing you, is characteristic of this root here, and so on. You know, the roots are very typical of the tree. So if you collect something and it's only a stick, you know that it's only going to have one stick root as well. If you collect something that's very, very dense, you know it's going to have very, very dense roots also. And likewise, if you know that the tree hasn't got many interior shoots, you can guarantee that there's some problem with the roots also. So if there's nothing close to the trunk, if it's shedding branches, if foliage is dying close to the trunk, it's because roots are dying close in as well. And that's because of bad repotting, or it's just hot bound. No water or air can get in round here. So that's why the shoots are dying close to the trunk and needs a very, very good repotting. So if we didn't find any good roots, the way to improve this tree would obviously be to air layer. And for those that don't know, air layering is you have a trunk, you cut the bark off, and then you put some soil around it, and the tree sends out new roots. Which is very, very simple. But one important thing with air layering, most of the time it fails because people don't give it good aftercare. Once the roots are formed, and we've cut the tree off, these roots are very, very thin, and the tree rocks and breaks, and these roots won't take. The best way to do this, if you propagate from air layering or to improve a tree like this, is to attach a wooden board. And we do that by screwing a board to the bottom of the tree. And this forces the roots to grow outwards. It also gives us a very solid foot, so we can wire this into the pot. And it doesn't move. We can drive a car at it, it will be fine. No problem. And the roots grow, and we end up with a perfect base, with the flattest root base possible. So that's after we've cut it from the rest of the tree. And that's the best way to air layer and create the perfect base.
And for how long time will you keep it?
Until the tree's stable. It depends on the species of the tree. So something like a hornbeam, which will bud on strong roots, maybe a season. But you won't actually see it. You could keep it there for years. You won't ever know it's there. It's all hidden away. But that would be the best way to employ it.
One more question.
Yeah.
Is that your own invention or?
No, it's quite a common technique, yes. And you could take that one stage further if you wanted. So you could get a board, well, I'd say a board of wood, you make 14 cuttings and then you screw lots of little trees onto this board. So we make a little, root connected or forest, okay? So you could do it that way as well, and then in a pot. So you can make that technique a little bit bigger by, getting a piece of plywood, drilling and screwing maybe 13 trees to it. So you make a forest. You make layers from, Chinese elms and, an instant forest. So that would be the way to improve this tree, if the roots aren't good enough down here. The pruning wounds they still need to heal a little bit. There's still some rotten wood in there, so maybe we can clean those up a little bit. Different species heal different ways. With hornbeam and beech, they have thick bark. It's quite fibrous. So when you prune, if you don't leave when you prune a branch away, if you don't take away a little bit of the wood as well, it will callous by leaving a big lump. But that's only with hornbeam and beech. So you need to make sure that is very clean and it will heal over. So a little bit of a scoop, a little bit of a bite taken out. With maples, however, it's the opposite. Their bark is very, very thin. So you would either leave it, you've taken a branch off here, you'd either leave it totally flat, or in the case of an apex, if you've taken an apex out, you actually round it over a little bit and the bark will heal over that. So you leave a profile for the bark to roll over. So when you take that away, it introduces taper. That also works with the species behind here, Metasequoia, John Redwood and Taxodium, also the same. In Florida, Louisiana, and places where they grow Taxodium, swamp cypress, they will start off with a log and then cut and shape so it becomes a tube, a cone, and the bark will actually roll over that entire thing. So from a cylinder, you end up with a cone, and the bark will roll over that, and that's a common way of growing Taxodium. So again, you sculpt, you shape the wood so it becomes a cone, and not cut out that way. You want to leave it like a circle, a cone, is the best way I can describe it.
Question?
Yes?
Can you have branches on this cone?
Yes.
All the branches come over?
No, they will throw shoot from here as well. But that's with Taxodium and Metasequoia that will do that. There's no problem. So with this tree, we need to get more density, more twigs, but also the most important thing is nabari and also wide, thin, flat pot. The most important thing with this tree. When you're growing trees, certainly from scratch, you're growing them from cutting, you have to deal with it in stages. The most important thing, if we are growing a deciduous bonsai, is the nabari, the base of the tree. Ignore everything else. Just, we don't worry about it. The most important thing is here, this first part. When we have that right, and we have a good nabari using techniques like air layering, then we can concentrate on the next section, the tachigari, that section. Okay? When we have that right, then we can work on the next part. So it's step by step, not rushing and just working on the green parts without getting the core of the tree right first. When we style a tree, we start from the heart of the tree, the real core of it, the centre, and then work out, not just the green bits. Then once we have the core of the tree made, then we can grow the branches. We can grow the branches anywhere we like because we can place them anywhere we like. We can graft them anywhere that we feel they need to grow. But we must get this part right first. To turn it around and do the branches first, unless we correct this trunk, it will never be a good bonsai. So forget about the branches, just concentrate on the base first of all, then the trunk, then the branches, last of all.
What kind of color would you choose for a pot for that?
Autumn colour on Korean Hornbeam is very, very good. So again, a nice light, you can just go for a nice light blue, always a blue of some form, or a very off-white, you know, a smoky white colour would be very, very nice. But you could go for something really wacky, really strange. With Shogun bonsai, you can get away with very small, very showy pots. With a pot this size, all you see is a big lump of blue, because it's quite a large pot, a medium-sized pot. With a small bonsai pot, when you're only this big, you can be very, very bright, because there's not a big expanse of colour. It's not a big block of colour like it is here, it's a very small block of colour. So you can get away with much brighter, showy pots. But even so, the two things must be a marriage. As in the presentation earlier, the two things are equal. It's bonsai, it's tree and it's pot. The two things need to be married together. You know, the pot selection is very important. Getting it right will mean the difference between a successful bonsai display and a not so successful bonsai display. So spending time looking for the right pot is important. And when you have an old bonsai, this tree is not particularly old, nor is the pot. The pot you can see is very shiny and looks new, which is okay. But if this was a very, very old bonsai, it would look wrong for it to be put in a very, very new pot. The two things, it is not a happy marriage. It would be like a 90-year-old man marrying a 17-year-old girl. It's just wrong in so many ways. And yeah, the two things don't fit. So the old tree will also need a very old pot with patina, with age, with real character, something even maybe an antique. If you have a very, very special tree, then you need to get a very, very special pot for it. So going back to deciduous trees and how to grow them. If you think about maple trees, a Shohin bonsai would be maybe so big. That's maybe a Shohin maple, maybe only just that big. When you grow a maple from seed, maybe the distance between buds is that big already. So bigger than the tree is now. You can have a maple seedling with buds, buds, buds. So how do we make a bonsai like this with, branch, 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 branch? It's very, very difficult, because even our seedling is too big already and it's only 1 year old. And this is what I mean. We first of all need to concentrate only with this part of the tree. So we can air layer. We find a trunk and we air layer it off of another tree. Okay, so we end up with roots. This is the most important thing. So maybe we find something like that, maybe, and we air layer. We're only thinking about this part here. Then once it's in a pot, we can cut branches away, and we only concentrate on the trunk. We concentrate on closing wounds, where we've cut branches away, but only thinking about the trunk, nothing more. Once that's grown, then we can think about the branches. So then we graft branches in to where they should be. Okay? And then we create the maple bonsai that way. because growing it by seed will be very, very difficult because already the growth is too far apart. A way to move branches on a bonsai. If we, taking this one stage further, if we have a beautiful bonsai, okay, and it's, you know, we're very proud of it, it's lovely, okay, but one year this branch, the main branch, dies. You know, the tree is ruined, but there is ways we can help, there's ways we can change it. We can take a branch from somewhere else and move it to the tree, move it elsewhere in the tree. We can do that by, it's a little bit like a grafting or a transplant. We can move this branch to this point here by grafting, as we said before, a couple of little seedlings to the branch. We can cut the branch off, and these two seedlings keep the branch alive. We can move the branch then around, place it in this position, okay, and then but we've got the two little life support trees. So we can move one branch from here down here, okay? So it'll take a couple of seasons to do. So what we've done is we've grafted, like we said earlier, my pen's in here, two little seedlings. And these are actually keeping the tree alive. We've attached them just by making a little slot and putting the seedling in. And then when we cut that branch off, these two keep it alive before we can fit it into that position there. So we can put branches anywhere we like on a bonsai.